Well, I would want to say that strong, because there's still the competitions at the observatories for the most accurate watches, and then they put them in all the positions and all these things, right? But as a commercial effect, this is not important, not as important as it used to be. That's what I wanted. That's basically my message, you see. I was wrong in judging the effect of the quartz watch, because having lived through a period where you fought all the time and had problems in the complaints because the watches were actually not that accurate. The Koskis, 8 seconds per day, the 1 minute accuracy per week was basically very good. And then quartz comes and says it's 2 seconds per month. And I said, that's the future, right? But then I left the industry in a period in 1980 when the whole watch world fell apart, right? And the whole low-end price market disappeared from Switzerland. And you must not forget that in 1975, Switzerland had a market share of about 25 or 30% of the world watch market. We were making 200, 300 million watches. And today, Switzerland makes 25 million watches. That's less than 2% of the world need, and of those, only 6 million are mechanical, which is less than 1%. So we are moved our industry, our Swiss industry, into a very special segment, which is the higher and upper grade watch market. And it took 20 years to make, or 15 years to let's say, to settle that industry, but this is a relatively small segment, so we're really a relatively small industry if you look at it at the world industrial level, right? But I remember those turbulent years because I myself lost my company, and the owners of Longines lost their company, owners of Omega lost their company, owners of Mido, of Rado. All these people were family companies, which I knew well, and Breitling, my friend Willy Breitling lost his company. So I was in good company, but it took 10, 20 years to restructure the whole watch industry. And today the watch industry in Switzerland is very healthy, and it's also, I would say, much more profitable than it used to be, because the margins are much better than they used to be in our time. In our time, a watch brand would invest as an average 5% in marketing and in advertising, right? And today, we're in a luxury watch industry, so it's 3 or 4 times more that is invested in that. And that's why if there's a little recession like there was now, the watch industry survived this relatively well, right? It's the suppliers who suffered most, but the brands suffered a bit, but not that dramatic. Let's say not. Young brands suffered a lot because they didn't have the cushions and the reserves, right? But the old established brands, yes, it was tough. America is, of course, very tough. Minus 50% exports for watches is brutal, right? Brutal. But still, okay, it's not as critical as it used to be. So that's the major change. We're really, the luxury watch market is 50 billion, maybe. That's the size of Louis Vuitton as a company, right? So we all live from that, right? You live and we live from that luxury market. So nobody has to complain, but we must see it in the right perspective of the importance it has on a worldwide basis, right? In my years, I was one of the first people getting involved in the sponsorship of people, supporting ambassadors, right? And therefore, I met quite a few, but we had a contract with Ferrari, who made that all the drivers had to, by contract, wear our patch and the watch. That was part of the deal we had with Ferrari. So I've gone through 11 Ferrari drivers, of which unfortunately a few died, and some others. Of course there were different characters. Some are better ambassadors and some are less good ambassadors. So you would like to know those that I thought that were very important for the brand?
The characters, when they were brightest.
Well, the characters were different than today. Because don't forget, a race driver in the 70s had always one foot in the grave. And therefore, he didn't know on Saturday night if on Sunday night he would be celebrating a victory, or if everybody would crying because he killed or mummified, right? Like Lauda, who was burned, right? They didn't know. So they lived more intensely than our drivers today, I would say. They were stronger personalities because they were more true people, more than today. They're, of course, but that's the way it is in sports. All athletes today have their fitness trainer, and all athletes today have to have all footballers today have to have a beautiful girlfriend, otherwise they're not a good footballer, so they have to have a mannequin as a wife, you know, it belongs part of the status. That wasn't that way. They were really much truer, or I would say much original and more stronger personalities. And that's the major change I find, right? All the guys are pros, they're professionals today. There they were still their own personality and their characters, right? Well, I liked a few. I had better relations with some. I was very close to Joe Siffert, of course, very close. Well, partly he was Swiss, that made it a bit easier, and we did a lot of things. We flew together, we partied together, what is his wedding. I sat next to Tanguy at his wedding, so then I got quite friendly with Tanguy. I also liked Clay very much, Clay Regazzoni. And then, of course, Jackie Ickx. He was one of our best ambassadors we had. Jackie Ickx really cooperated very closely with the... Like Niki Lauda, not so much, right? He was his own hero in his country, so... But he was a big... I saw him, we had an event with him a few months ago in Vienna with Niki, which is quite amusing. Moving, I would say, moving. But those are the ones in my period, which I cherished quite a lot, more than the others, yeah. Well, one watch one of my favorite watches is the gold Carrera chronograph I gave all the Ferrari drivers, and which was inscribed with the name on the back and the blood group. And we're still looking for one of these watches for our museum. And, you know, it's very difficult to find. There are only 11 watches like that in the world, and one was stolen, the one of Lauda was stolen. And there are a lot of emotions because it's quite interesting. I was in Monaco, and Jacques Villeneuve had a big boat there, and he invited us on the boat, and his mother was receiving the guests on the top of the boat. So I walk up that little stair, and as I come there to the mother, somebody introduces me to the mother, and she said, "Oh, Mr. Heuer, you know, I still have the watch you gave my son." And, yes, and no, my husband. He gave my husband, Gilles Villeneuve. And I still wear it because I still cherish it. So I nearly cried, you see. And so there's a lot of emotions related to that watch. Regazzoni wore it in his wheelchair. He would wear it, the old Heuer chronograph, and things like that. So that's one of my favorite watches.